The Dodgers are dodging, the feeders are feeding, the callers are calling, and the champions are breeding. The first round of the NCAAs. This is College Lacrosse Game Day. Welcome aboard.
Saturday, May 3rd. In the NEC, Bobby Moe lets everybody know that they're the team to go. 17-7 over Detroit Mercy.
After an OT win in the semis over Hofstra, Towson tackles Drexel 13-10. Waitha went 7-6 on the weekend, earning CAA MVP honors.
High Point's end-of-year push in the A-10 comes to a screeching halt at all 8 of Richmond's hands. 16-10 Spiders.
Hey, John Tillman, how many MAC championships have you won? Siena survives Marist, then Sacred Heart to win the conference on the road, 12-8.
The Albany Great Danes are still alive, and they let Pearl Jam carry them through the American East, 12-7 over Bryant.
Hoya Saxa 7 in a row for Georgetown, 16-8 over Villanova. They own the Big East, and I'm kind of sick of it.
The Ohio State are the Big Ten champions of late. They shocked Maryland 14-10.
Sunday, May 4th. Way to go, Colgate. You killed the dreams of future service members. Some patriots. You are. They win the league 17-10 over BU.
The Force was in the air on May the 4th. The ASUN finished with a 1-goal victory for Air Force over Utah, 11-10.
Suddenly, sizzling Syracuse surfaced as the sauciest, sassiest, sexiest squad in the storied ACC. Since the second my sparkling sight spheres slid into their sockets on that sensationally sun-soaked Sunday, they smacked snooty star-studded Duke, 9-8.
The two Ivy League typhoons swoon the creators' goons. Cornell leaves the Princeton Tigers licking their wounds, 20-15.
Welcome back to Game Day. Big weekend last weekend with the conference championships. The bracket is now set, besides these play-in games to come on Wednesday. We got a new partner here. Hackees makes sticks with pads on them, so you can...
We were fortunate enough to get our hands on some. I remember, like, when we were kids, we'd be playing, like, 3-on-3, and one little knock to the elbow bone, game over. Crying.
The big thing was, like, GBs and face-offs. Like, you couldn't do a face-off.
Yeah.
Without gloves on.
Yeah, without, like, at least one glove on.
Knock.
Or, like, yeah, like, your hands were getting chewed up. This is, like, a perfect solution. And they're actually higher quality than I thought.
Yeah, definitely.
They're higher quality than I thought they'd ever be.
If you were to think about it, like, if you start lacrosse, like, you're paying like $100 for a stick, you're paying like $200 for a Cascade helmet. Like, this is a really low barrier way to get into lax. Play with your boys, like, head out on the beach. So, like, you could have a real game.
Right.
Which is awesome.
Like, the quality is good enough where, like, a PLL all-star could use this and be like, huh, this is actually pretty good. And you could give it to a beginner, a 3-year-old who's never played lacrosse before, and it wouldn't limit them in their abilities. It's a full lacrosse stick.
Yeah.
I also love the shaft too, because, like, the shaft is solid, but it bends. So like if you hit someone, like, it flexes opposed to, like...
It's just a lot easier to, like, keep games going.
Yeah, some of them have bags. This one has a bag. You can really crank it with this one.
It's not like every other, crappy mini stick you get.
We're happy to work with Hackees and use these things on the beach for quite a while. We have the tournament on the horizon. Good week of conference championships. Just almost too much lacrosse. If you're busy, if you're doing fun stuff. We're playing golf this weekend and you're almost stressed out the whole time thinking, I'm missing some phenomenal ball right now. There's one thing I wanted to pull up and talk about right now. Our Instagram following is now up to 3,000. And we're starting to get some interesting conversations going with some of our followers. They DM'd us on Instagram. Okay, I've chickened out on sending this message for like 3 weeks now, but I've got to say, you guys are absolute studs, and I would be so happy if you consider selling a pair of your socks. Lacrosse guys always have the rankest socks, and ever since you started College Lacrosse Game Day, I've been too chicken to ask if you have any available for purchase. So I responded, can you send a picture of your feet and we'll consider? They said, da fuck. I said, let's see them. They said, bruh, I'm not a chick. I'm a gay dude looking to buy socks. I said, and I'm a freak who wants to see some naked feet with oil rubbed between the toes. Seems like a fair trade for used socks. Why can't you just take my cash in exchange for socks? I hate you so much, /love CLGD so much. You choose. Toes for the bros. Darn it, I'm going to have to pass. But just some love for the boys.
Who was that?
I don't know.
No idea.
I don't feel comfortable saying
That's unbelievable.
the name.
We'll
But,
leave him anonymous, but it's pretty good.
hey, we always got to interact. We got a message from Anish we got to look at, a tweet, I think. and a bunch of call-ins. I think you guys know at this point how to do it. You just send us a DM on Instagram on the weeks that we are doing it, and thank you all for doing so. We'll shoot this shit more later, but let's get into call-ins.
I was actually lacrosse. Is that game with the fucking fish stick there, the nets there?
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
Calling in. My name's Dan Arestia.
Spencer Jr., if you're not committed to Maryland and ranked top 3 in your class, by the end of your junior year, I'll shave your head and I'll ship your ass off to boarding school in Alaska faster than Lamar Jackson 40-yard dash.
What tweet? Dean, midi back, giving us a ring. You guessed it. It's about Syracuse.
Hey, Dean Mitty back here. And oh, what a sweet day it is. Cuse came out on top the ACC, and they got a nice revenge path ahead of them. First up, time to redeem themselves against Harvard. And now those kids are smart enough to figure out they got no chance in the JMA Dome under Spalina's reign. After we handle the Tigers, it's the Terps and Big Red, both of which we need another shot at. This is it, gentlemen. Cuse is back.
Cuse is back. His prediction was undefeated conference champs, but they did win the conference, and they were not my pick. I am beyond impressed by what they did in Charlotte, North Carolina in the ACC tournament.
Yeah, that was a big moment for Syracuse. I think I called Syracuse winning the ACC. Seen them play all year. They're a team built for this. They have the depth. I think it was just a matter of putting it together at the right moments. It will be great to see them get another shot at Harvard, a team that beat them early on in the season at the Dome. So 2 hot teams, but I'm with Dean here. I like Syracuse. I think they can make a real push at the national championship this year.
Important to note, too, Cuse hasn't won it since, I believe, 2015 or 2016. Then that is the ACC.
Yep, that was Gary Gates' first ACC championship as a head coach. So congratulations to friend of the podcast, Coach Gary Gate.
Would you rather the ACC plays each other twice in a year, or they only play each other once and have an ACC championship?
I don't know if it's feasible for them to play twice in a year.
They did that. They did that a few years ago, and they didn't have an ACC championship.
Was that during COVID, like the shortened season?
I think it was the year after COVID. Mike, I don't know if you remember back to that. I think that was when they were doing like Thursday night lacrosse to get all those ACC games in.
I like the format they have now, right? You get one shot in the regular season, and then you play them when it matters most in the ACC championship. I like the format they have. I think with the amount of out-of-conference teams that these teams play, just to boost their strength of schedule is really important to them.
All right, next call.
All right, next we have Johnny calling in about Syracuse doubt.
1, 2.
Yeah, guys, I'm just calling in. This is Johnny fucking Boychuk from Leominster. I don't know why this guy, Dean Middyback, keeps calling in about Cuse. The guy doesn't know nothing about lacrosse, all right? I know a little bit of something. My daughter's a freshman on the varsity team at Leominster High, all right? And I think they're going to get smacked this weekend. They're no good. I don't know what the hell he keeps talking about. And, speaking of smack, he keeps running his mouth online. He's going to get smacked too. Tell him that. I want to see a response from him. All right? Thanks.
Johnny freaking Boychuk. He wants his throat.
He's not a Syracuse guy. He's a Boston guy. Johnny Boychuk. So yeah, I can see why he's pulling for Harvard. Look, I kind of agree with Dean Mitty back here. I think Syracuse has a lot to lose. I think that they're the better team. I think that they have a ton of weight on their shoulders, but I think they're used to playing with it. So I don't see them losing this one to Harvard, but obviously there's people rooting against them. So
yeah, I mean, it's hard to beat a team twice. The only thing I will say is Cuse has just been kind of inconsistent. They've been really, really good, like they were in the ACC tournament in the championship, or when they played at Duke earlier in the year, they looked incapable of even producing offense. So what Cuse are you going to get in the tournament? I think is the only thing that could give any pause, but they just won the ACC. So
I saw a stat: the last team to beat Syracuse twice at Syracuse in the season was Onondaga Nation in like 1918 or something like that.
Really?
Onondaga Nation.
In the same year.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll talk about it more later. Next call.
We have Zach Cole calling in. He's talking about the NLL.
What's going on, College Lacrosse Game Day? Zach Cole here again with another pretty hot take regarding Conference Championship weekend. Obviously, in the NLL, when you get to playoff time, there are series. So, for example, the first round is a best of one. But then once you move on into the semifinals, you have a best of three series. So thoughts on 4-team playoffs. If the first game would be best of one, and then moving into the weekend, if they did a best of three series. So another hot take. Don't have any specific stance on this. Just wanted to get your guys' thoughts.
Wow, I mean, that is an interesting take. So he's saying when you get to the final four,
I think he's just more so talking about the idea of like if we had a multi-game series in a lacrosse championship, whether that's for your conference or for the actual championship. And I am in love with the idea. Like I wish like Ohio State, they kind of beat up on Maryland in the Big Ten championship, but like imagine getting to watch those guys play in like a 5-game series.
yeah, it would change the whole dynamic of the sport.
Change your gum.
Like you'd have to, I don't know. I guess it is an interesting take because when you think of lacrosse as a sport, right, it's not as physical as football. It's not as physically demanding as a football game, right? But it's certainly not as stress-free and easy as like a baseball game or a basketball game or something like that, right? So it's kind of like teetering that line between, is one game enough or is it not enough? And I think it's like, just it's like barely enough is how I would say it. So I think it would be awesome to see these conference tournaments, maybe conference championships be a 3-game series. And, you really have to go deep into your bench. You really have to game plan a little bit more. You got to save legs. It would change the dynamic of recruiting and how teams are built. And it would be great for us, for fans, but I think that's a pretty major change that would need to happen.
National championship would be pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
Like a Thursday, Saturday, and if you have to go best of 3 on like a Monday night.
Yeah.
And the way I'd think of it too is like how many more fans would be able to go to this game, especially if they keep it on Memorial Day weekend. People have different things they're doing that weekend. You have better opportunity to be able to see one of those games if there's 3.
Yeah.
If it goes best of 3, there would at least be 2 anyways. But
how great would it
cool
be?
idea.
Like, you probably have to play 2 goalies. You probably have to start one for 2 games and one for 1 game. And you'd have to have like 3 face-off guys. You'd have to have 9 middies. You'd have to have at least 4 attackmen. Like you'd have to just have, more depth than just a 1 game, like one and done, wait a week, everybody's juiced up for the next week. You'd really have to think about it. So I kind of love the idea.
I don't know about goalies, but I get your point. You need more depth,
Yeah.
especially at the midfield.
Agreed.
Especially at the midfield. But
Yeah.
got you.
Those hamstrings get sore. You need 2 lines of middies for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Next call.
All right, we got J Rock calling in. He's just talking about value picks and his outlook on the tournament.
Hey, Rockefeller here. I was able to watch all the games this weekend from the best suite at Churchill Downs. And upon spilling a large spoonful of caviar on my eggshell blazer, I came to the realization that Richmond Moneyline is the greatest play of the year. Not that I need the money. My portfolio is 10x'd every year since the NCAA introduced the restraining line. Anyways.
When did the NCAA introduce the restraint?
I have no idea. Like 1920.
And how would that contribute to his portfolio? Or maybe it's just a benchmark of time. I don't know.
I think it was a benchmark of time.
I think it's the generational Rockefeller wealth.
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
It just
man.
keeps going. Richmond Moneyline. They are 1.5 goal underdogs at UNC. We'll talk about the game, but I'd rather just take them plus 1.5 and hope for a 1-goal game.
Yeah, no, I actually agree with J-Rock. I think that's probably the best bet if you're betting an underdog, because I don't even think Richmond is truly an underdog in this game. They have 3 losses this year to Maryland, Cornell, and Duke by a total combined 5 goals, right? So, like, they're a legit team. They're not a mid-major team that just won the A10 and is kind of sneaking in the tournament. Like, no, they've played every team tough. They've won a ton of big games. They've played the best of the best to 1 or 2 goal games. I actually love this pick. So I agree with J-Rock. I think a couple other ones just to mention quickly. I actually like Duke as a 7 seed. I think like if you're betting futures for, Final 4 teams, I think they could come out of that bracket. I think they have the ability to beat Maryland. And I also like Colgate against Penn State. Like, that's a little more volatile, but Colgate's a good team. They play fast, and I think they match up pretty well against Penn State. So a lot of good picks in this first round, a lot of good underdogs. And, it kind of just goes back to like every team has won a conference tournament. Every team has won a ton of big games, right? Anybody can beat anybody.
I don't know how much we're going to talk about Colgate in this episode. Probably more when we get into the games, but like if you take a step back and say who are you most impressed by from what just happened this weekend, it's hard not to say Colgate.
Yeah.
They just beat Army at Army, and then they killed BU in the championship, 17-10.
Yeah.
They're good. They're good. Like we, questioned at the beginning of the year, are they real? Are they not real? Well, right now, as of, May, whatever, they're for real. So excited for that one. Next call. Sorry, Mike. I know you had some thoughts there.
Talk about it later.
All right, next we have Dylan calling in about some Army disappointment and at-large stuff.
Hey, it's Dylan's calling. First time, long time. But what's up with everybody pissing their jock straps over Army not making the tournament? I mean, they went 12-2, yeah, but they're the frickin' United States Army. I mean, somebody's got to defend the nation, bro. And I mean, sure as hell ain't Navy after the year they had. Anyway, I got Siena over Albany. Tougher conference. Let me hear it.
It's fucking awesome. I know where he's coming from, though. There are a lot of people, I mean, especially if you're looking at, social media right now, that are pissed that Army didn't make it. And I think if we're being straight up, emotionally, Army would be awesome in this tournament, and they could probably make a run and compete for a national championship just with the amount of talent on their roster. But there's a picture, I think it was TLN posted, it was side by side, Army and Harvard. The two numbers that were the most glaring were strength of schedule and RPI. Harvard was higher on both of them. And what else can you make a decision on besides those two numbers? So I think the committee made a right decision.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mike. Like, we all hate that Army got left out, but when it came down to the statistics and the hard facts and the hard truths, Harvard had a better body of work than Army did all year long. And if you're Army, you can't lose to Colgate in the semis, right? If they win that game and then lose to BU, maybe it's a different story, but tough bid for Army. And I also saw another interesting thing, like, so their schedule, like on paper before the season started, wasn't that bad, right? They had Rutgers and Yale early on in the season, and typically those boost your strength of schedule. This year, Rutgers and Yale were not very good, right? They didn't help anybody's schedule that they had them on. So
that's why you have a committee.
Exactly.
That's why you have a committee.
Yeah.
Why not just do the whole thing? Why not just like do computers and then say, here it is?
I think they do have a committee to some degree, but like
they do.
computers.
They have a committee. But why do you have one if it's going to come down to what you're crunching in the numbers wise? And if you look at their schedule last year, they had like a couple more tough games. I think they played, I know they played Syracuse. They played Cornell. I don't think they played Cornell, forgetting, but you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, if you're Army and scheduling these tough games. And it's like, it's not their fault Yale sucked this year.
No.
It's not their fault, Rutgers wasn't as good a win as they thought. And I think there's some others in their schedule I'm forgetting, but they beat North Carolina, who is a home team as a first-round loser in the ACC tournament.
Yeah. I mean, and if you look back on it, like their only two losses are BU and Colgate. Colgate's in, BU was very close to being in. So, like, not bad losses, but again, like you look at what they've done all season long, it was close, but it just wasn't enough.
Also, I know we're Harvard fans here. I know we got to get to the next call. Harvard, they posted we are the 2025 Division I New England champions. And Coach Jerry Byrne reposted it.
Who else is in New England? BU?
You kind of got to do the math in your head because it doesn't exist. Whatever that is.
It's another marketing.
Yeah, exactly. What about Tufts?
Bryant, Providence.
So their marketing ploy. Jerry Burns played there.
Congratulations, Harvard. You are the New England champions. Next call.
Next we have Paul Rabel's top string. He's talking about at-large, tourney feedback, some recycled material.
Hey guys, Paul Rabel's top string here. I'm at my parents' house because I had a rough go with the roulette table last weekend. But I'm not really too ticked off about the Harvard over Army thing. They were better in every quantitative figure. But what I am fucking pissed about is how we're so Bush League, we only get 2 flights per round. So Ohio State gets stuck with Notre Dame. Are we serious? Also, why is Richmond not hosting over UNC? That's my biggest pet peeve, guys. Richmond should be totally hosting that game, even though Petro's got a best mess all. Thanks, guys.
No, it's a fair point, and like, that's one thing that you got to talk about when you look at the bracket. So I guess just like big picture, right? The seeded teams in the tournament are the top 8 teams in the country, right? So they get host games. So seeds 1 through 8 are the top 8 teams. They earn a host game, right? Everybody after that, everybody non-seeded, the matchup is based off, geography, the flights, like Paul Rabel's top string said, right? It kind of goes to like all this off the field stuff and like where you're situated and your travel and all that, right? So like that's why Ohio State got kind of killed with Notre Dame, because geographically they're pretty close by. And like, you look at Penn State, who's a seed higher than Notre Dame, or seed higher than Ohio State. They're the 5 seed. They draw Colgate, right? Because geographically Colgate's a little bit closer to Penn State. So I guess when we're kind of talking about these matchups, and just to give everybody context, like how these teams get picked and how these games get set up, like the seeded teams hosts, they're like the constants, and everybody else kind of falls in based off travel and how much money it's going to cost and how far these teams have to travel to play the game. So I agree, like Ohio State got absolutely robbed. Like they should not be playing Notre Dame. They should have drew a better matchup, but at the end of the day, like that's how the tournament is built. That's how it's always been built, and you have a right to be pissed off about it, but certainly sucks for Ohio State.
I like the Richmond take too. I believe Richmond was a top 10 RPI before they won the conference tournament. I think they should be rewarded for winning the A10 and should have a host game, because they were already a top 10 RPI team. They were already a top 10 ranked team. Why not reward them with a home game, in my opinion?
Yeah, that's a toss-up, but
it's a toss-up, but I mean,
yeah,
they're a conference champion.
They are. All right, next call.
Next, we got Eric Holden calling in. Just kind of rounding out this conversation about at large and the committee and everything. Just food for thought.
What's up, fellas? Eric Holden here. Something that I don't understand is that every single Monday after the Selection Sunday show, there are people complaining in the comments on Instagram of Inside Lacrosse saying, this team got snubbed, this team got seeded so low, this doesn't make any sense. I think it should be a requirement that before anyone comments, they read the full article on Inside Lacrosse explaining the criteria that the selection committee uses to create a bracket, and that they spend some time on Lacrosse Reference understanding the RPI metric and what goes into it. I think that's going to clear a lot of things up and make it easier for everyone. Thanks, guys.
I just go back to, why do you have a committee?
You know what my comment is on that? I think of the college football playoff. They always talk about how is the committee going to lean this year. They usually go, are they going to be more eye test, or are they going to be more by the numbers? And obviously the committee this year was all by numbers, not eye test. But that's why you have a committee, because they can have that factor of eye test come into play, which obviously this year wasn't the case. I get your point, though.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think like this year compared to the last couple years, there's been a lot less disagreement in the tournament. I feel like this year, like kind of relying on the numbers gives people a baseline saying, okay, well, like it makes sense, right? There's some data that backs us up why, Harvard gets in and Army doesn't. So yeah, I mean, I think if like you're someone who's pissed off about it and is questioning it and all that, like, listen to Eric and go read the criteria that gets you selected for these games. Like there's a lot more that goes into it than just like who's the best team, right?
Yeah, just I don't know why you need people to, if the criteria is the criteria, I don't know why you need people there to decide what's more important than the other. I don't know. It's just I think Army would have been a top 5 pick to win the national championship. I know I'm kind of an Army homer here, but it just sucks. It sucks. That would have been my pick. Just
it's unfortunate
out of fandom and whatever. But
are there any
saying it's not unfortunate?
Are there any other teams that you wish got in? Like say there's an added play-in game, right? And you could pick 2 teams to be in there. Who would they be?
One more team outside of Army, you're saying?
Yeah, 1 or 2.
Was there even anybody who's close?
Michigan's probably that next team. Honestly, it's probably Michigan,
St. Joe's.
They had a tough end of the year.
Hopkins didn't deserve it, but like,
No, they didn't. I mean,
Maybe Rutgers.
Fairfield, tough end of the year.
Yeah, are we talking about somebody who should have won their conference, like Sacred Heart, but that, they're not a top one. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
I
Bryant.
don't know.
Providence.
I don't know.
Yeah, Villanova. Good hypothetical. Extend the tournament. Next call, a couple more.
Next, we got Cam calling in about club ball.
Oh, this will be really quick.
Boys, let's not forget about the MCLA championships right now. We got 25-year-old BYU Mormon missionaries beating up on some 18-year-olds from the middle of nowhere. We got Grand Valley dog walking people. We got fucking St. Thomas being fucking weird Minnesotans. Let's fucking go. Let's get this shit together. Get the MCLA on this podcast. Bye.
I love it. Love the MCLA. Love how much they love the game. Don't know much about what's going on, but I can't imagine the culture of grittiness and love for the creators game that they have in the Midwest.
Yeah, no, I bet those are some good lacrosse games.
They are. And they love the game.
Yeah.
They love the game.
Yeah. No, like MCLA is growing the game. It's spreading the game. It's making it more accessible to people who can't, play Division 1 or 3 or 2 or whatever. And, it's those teams are comprised of guys who love the game. So shout out MCLA. We're looking forward to see who comes out on top there.
We are. We'll keep a close eye on it. Next call.
Next, we have Ryan Gilmartin calling in. Forget what he said, but it's a crisp 30-second take. So right on the dot for what we asked for.
Way to go, Ryan.
So, boys, Squirrelmaster Gilla here was making some burgers and dogs on Daddy's grill and crushing some Keystone Lights. Them lights got me pinching one out on the porcelain throne when it hit me that Ohio State got screwed by the committee. Won the Big Ten, Maryland gets the 2, Princeton 3. And now they have to play Notre Dame. Location does play a factor, but they got completely boned after winning one of the best conferences in the country. What do you guys think about the committee bending them over? So, boys.
You enjoy your Keystone Lights, sir.
Out of
God's
fucking
beer.
nowhere. I love it. I was not expecting that, Gilly. What do you call himself? Gillmaster? The Gillmaster.
The Gillmaster.
He was grilling.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, we talked about it, so we won't cover it, but enjoy. Enjoy, brother. Last one.
Kind of made me want a Keystone Light.
All right, next we got Caleb talking about his buddy Marinier.
Yo-ho, college lacrosse game day. What up? It's your boy Caleb. Oh, hang on. The waiter's here. Let me order my food. You know what? Let's start out with a side of mozzarella sticks. And can we do some extra Marinier sauce on the side? Boom! 48 points on the year, 46 Genos, 2 apples. I mean, this guy's fucking unbelievable, bro. I mean, Marinier. Dancing all the way to Memorial Day weekend. I mean, this Ohio State team's hot, and they get fucked by the seeding. Unbelievable. I mean, most people wouldn't want Notre Dame in round 1. I'll tell you who does. That cat Van Buren. He's going to fucking erase Chris Gabb, and then Marinier's going to drag his nuts all over Sean Light. Yeah, I said it. Sean Light's baby food.
Dude, why do I feel like I have to use that at a restaurant now?
No, okay, honestly,
chicken palm, some extra Marinier.
Like, honestly, we're saying Ohio State got screwed. They did. Obviously, they didn't want to see Notre Dame, but
it might have been the call of the year.
It's pretty good.
That was up there.
He's in the running for caller of the year. But like, Ohio State is fully capable of beating Notre Dame. Notre Dame, they lost Matt Jeffrey a couple weeks ago. We're gonna err on the side of caution and say he's not gonna play in this game just because that injury looked pretty serious. But Ohio State's a good team. Like, it's not like they're totally mismatched against Notre Dame. Like, I think you play this game 10 times. I think Ohio State probably wins 6 of them, right? They are legit. Marinier's a beast. They have the pieces to beat Notre Dame, who's a little bit down going into this tournament, which hasn't been the case in years past. So, yeah, obviously they got screwed, but they can certainly win this game. I think if they do win this game, it's going to be a huge momentum boost for them, kind of going in to the Final Four and hopefully the championship, and knowing that they can beat the 2-time champion in Notre Dame, like that'll do them a lot of good if they can get through them in round 1.
But they also have to beat the 2-peat national champion twice in 1 year, which is, I think, also why people think Ohio State got fucked, which is also why we keep talking about today.
Yep. I think whoever wins this game is going to win the national championship.
I agree.
This is Loyola Men's Club Lacrosse.
All right, boys, I got a real question for you. 100 men versus one gorilla. Give me your thoughts. But piggybacking on that, the world needs to know what 15 badass motherfucking lacrosse players could take down this gorilla.
It's actually a pretty good hypothetical. I bet we could ring off 10.
Tucker Durkin.
Tucker Durkin.
Tucker Durkin was my first thought.
Graham Hossick.
Brendan Lavelle.
Brendan Lavelle.
Colin Robinson.
Miles Jones.
It's 5.
Aiden McGuire.
Yeah. You need some with stamina.
AJ Pilot. Zach Cole.
Matt Landis.
Oh, that's a good pick.
Jack Rowlett.
Mike Sisselberger.
Yeah, that's a good addition. May as well throw Adam Shea in there.
Adam Shea. The milkman.
Connor Farrell.
Farrell.
Gotta get some. That's 3 face-off guys in a row right there.
Sergio Perkovic.
We're already over 10, so that's good for us.
No, you need Costabile. You need someone stronger.
John Sexton.
You get low.
What about Blaze Reardon? Throw him in there.
He's
Sure. Take him.
These guys versatile. Plays goalie and attack.
Should we just put Paul in there? Just maybe he makes it, maybe he doesn't.
I could put Rabel in there.
Yeah, Prime Rabel.
Rabel is prime, yeah.
Rabel's the bait. We throw him in first. And then
I
everyone
agree.
jumps
We
on
just
top.
see what happens.
Or RJ Kaminsky. Sorry.
True, both of them together. All right, that rounds it out. God, it's probably 15.
Thank you, callers. Appreciate it. Good session. Water guns, that's a birthday party. That's a birthday party thing. A nail gun.
Children.
A nail gun puts a nail in something and it stays there for 30 years. And it does and it keeps it there. And these nail guns are keeping their programs on top. All right, our nail gun of the week. Being a nail gun of the week in conference championship weekend that's a big deal. This is championship weekend at the conference level. Very emotional, high level lacrosse played across the board this past weekend. So whoever our nail gun is, that's a big honor to be bestowed upon for a big week in our sport for a lot of kids, a lot of guys last time ever playing a game. For me, that was the case on a Saturday in a conference championship for the NEC. I still cry to this day thinking about that day and how it all came crumbling down. And I know these guys will too.
Same thing happened to me. RIT, conference championship, Liberty League. Unfortunately, happened again this year for St. Lawrence, but they made the tournament. It was heartbreaking. They demolished us.
Yeah.
As they sometimes do.
That's what good teams do. Well, St. Joe's demolished us that Saturday in May in 2022, but our nail gun, Hayden, without further ado.
All right, so my nail gun of the week is a team, and that team is the Siena Saints. So Siena just won the MAC championship. They're slated to play Albany this Wednesday for a play-in game before the winner of that faces Cornell, I believe. So I just want to kind of give a shout out to Siena because they came out of the MAC, which is a real tough conference, and they did it with a bunch of seniors, which is, a little inspirational in my eyes, right? Their top 3 leading scorers are all senior attackmen. They're a team that's flown under the radar, has kind of been a punching bag for the last couple of years, but this year they put it all together and they earned the next game, right? A couple studs with Pratt Reynolds, Ryan McCarthy, Connor Huffnagel, right? I think everybody saw Pratt Reynolds' interview after winning the MAC championship, right? He dropped a couple F-bombs on national TV, we'll call it, but like that is just pure passion, pure joy. So Siena, you're the nail gun of the week.
Congratulations, Siena. Nail gun of the week. They got Albany on Wednesday. Albany's a 3.5 goal favorite in that one. And the other game on Wednesday is Air Force Robert Morris. I think both these games will be complete by the time we are recording. Let's get into the games. Let's get into this first round of the NCAA tournament. We don't know all the games right now, but the ones we don't know what they're going to be aren't a big deal because I like Cornell against Albany or Siena. I like Maryland against Air Force or
Robert Morris.
I like them in that game. I think we all do it. I don't think we need to talk about it much, but God bless those teams. Go shock us. Go shock the world.
Do you think this Wednesday slate, right? These two playing games are kind of like the battle of the mid majors. Who's the best team out of the mid majors?
We always say mid majors. What's a mid major?
A
Or maybe like
mid-major is
not
any team.
mid-majors.
A mid-major is any team that is in the Ivy, ACC, or the Big Ten.
Okay. So you have the battle of like the American East, NEC, MAC, and ASUN.
But is the ASUN a mid-major, though?
They're not like mid majors. They're like below mid majors.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Apologies.
what I'm saying. Small
Apologies.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
was separating from the top. Yes. A mid-major team is somebody in a respectable conference outside of the Big Three.
Yes.
Were
So
they-
this is like the battle of like the
A10, the
unrespectable
Patriot League,
conferences.
the CAA, the Big East.
So what would you call these conferences, Mike?
Which ones?
The NEC, the ASUN, the American
Gritty.
East, and the yeah.
That's
the
what I
grit,
call them.
the grit conferences.
Yep.
They're
I
gritty.
love it.
They love ball.
There's another partnership we got to talk about that we need to talk about with a company called Streaker Sports.
Earlier in the season, we had a good conversation and connect with a vintage apparel brand. If you're watching any of the Final Four and March Madness for college basketball, they had a couple shirts that kind of went viral. People were catching on to them. Really awesome brand. I'll link the website above. We're going to do a unboxing video to show you some of the merchandise that they shared with us. And we also have a promo code that we can release so that viewers can get discounts on the items. So hold on to it, Dan. I know you want to crack it. There's some red in there. Orange. I think it looks orange.
That's Hobart orange right there.
Some Hobart orange in there. So get ready for the next release, and we'll show you some shit.
Sweet. So these games, we're going to go in order from as they are happening on Saturday and on Sunday. First game of the weekend might be the best one. And we've already talked about it on this show. Richmond at the 8 seed North Carolina. UNC is a 1.5 goal favorite in this game. It is at 12 noon on ESPNU. This kicks off the first round of the NCAA tournament. It's a pick'em. It is a pick'em. I think the traditionalist point of view here would be, UNC, ACC team, they're going to take it home. If you haven't watched much college lacrosse this year, you're not going to think twice about this matchup. You're just going to take the Tar Heels. However, as we already pointed out, Richmond having a great year, a lot of good players that we all know, and they have an amazing defense. When I watch Richmond play, I think about their defense more so than I do their offense, but they got guys with the names like Lucas Littlejohn.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough not to pay attention to a kid whose last name's Littlejohn. UNC, Richmond. Michael, start with you because you are more prepared than Hayden is.
I'm going to speak about Richmond here, and
Please.
I know Hayden has some knowledge on every single team just off the top of his dome, and I'm plenty on UNC. But you already mentioned the defense. I mean, as a whole, Richmond is just an extremely efficient team. They're just a good team on every single corner of the field. Midfield, defense, close, attack, goalie, face-off. They just play well. They don't back down to pressure. They stay to their game no matter who their opponent is, and they scout very well matchup-wise, and they don't fluster. So as far as defense, they're the number 1-2 scoring defense in the country. And then they're also the number 8 scoring offense. So they're top 10 in both the most major statistical categories, scoring offense, scoring defense. They've proven they can hang. We've already mentioned this. They've proven they can beat good teams. They beat UVA. They beat Georgetown. They ran through the entire A10 undefeated, win the conference championship. And that's a conference that's 6 teams deep, 3 of which were in the top 20 this year, and they didn't lose a single game. And then they lost to Duke and Cornell by 1, so they've shown they can hang in there on those games. And they should have won those games, honestly. They could have and should have. I do also, I've mentioned him multiple times, Hunter Smith on Richmond, close defenseman, is a stud, and he will be tasked with Owen Duffy of UNC. Owen Duffy's kind of been a little quiet recently. People are saying he's been a little shaken up, maybe not fully healthy, but that'll be a really good top-tier matchup to watch in this game. And I love Richmond in this game.
Outright winner to cover.
Cover is my step down, but I mean, I would be confident in a outright win as well.
Yeah, Mike, I agree with everything that you just said. Richmond's won the last 8. UNC is 1-2 in their last 3 games with losses to Notre Dame and Duke. They did beat Syracuse. in the middle of those two teams. And like you said, Owen Duffy is a little shaken up. Like if you watch them play in the last couple of weeks, it's pretty apparent that he's not at 100%, right? He's not as quick. He doesn't have that first step that he's had, at least at the beginning of the season. And I really like Richmond's defense. They're a team-oriented defense. I think they're going to play Petremol and Duffy real well. I think they're going to limit their outside shots. And yeah, like I said it before, I don't think Richmond is necessarily an underdog here. They could have very easily been the 8 seed and UNC could have been, that unseeded team. And then, I don't think our, perception would have changed of either of these teams. So I like Richmond in this one. I think UNC will play them tough, but I just like the form that Richmond is in. They've been on a hot streak for the last couple months, and I don't see them dropping this one. I think they're a team that's arrived and they're ready for this moment.
This is the Will Perry game. He said his dark horse for the national champion was Richmond, and UNC was his non-dark horse favorite to win it all. And yeah, these teams have a gauntlet ahead of them. After this game, the winner of this one is likely going to play against Cornell, and after that, they're going to have to beat a Ohio State or Notre Dame team, but they'd be in the Final Four at that point. So going to have to win 2 tough games if they want to make it to the Final Four. Last thing I'll say about this game, the over-under is 23. Love the under. Love the under in this game. 2 great defenses. Next game, Towson at the 3 seed Princeton. This one's at 2:30. It's on ESPNU. Princeton is a 5-goal favorite in this game. Towson, haven't paid attention to them much this year. We all kind of jumped off at the beginning when they had some tough losses. We all know what Princeton's capable of. To put it bluntly, they're capable of winning a national championship. And Towson, they've been around. They've been in the Final Four in the last decade. So has Princeton. But we'll see what the Tigers are made of after a tough loss in the Ivy League championship.
Yeah, Princeton is a real deal. Had they beat Cornell in the Ivy League championship, they probably would have been the number 1 seed in this tournament, which is kind of crazy to think because, I don't think they've been ranked number 1 all year. But had they beat Cornell, they'd be the number 1 team. Them or Maryland, but probably them because they have the head-to-head. But, Princeton's legit. I also think Towson is in good form, similar to Richmond, right? Their last loss was against Virginia in early March, right? So almost 2 months ago was their last loss. So they've obviously found something there. They have Mikey Weissar, who we've talked about a million times. He's a guy that can bring them through these tough games. Unfortunately, I do think Princeton's a little too deep. They lost by 5 to Cornell, but there was moments in that game where you thought Princeton was going to run away with it. They're that type of team. They're a team that can certainly win a national championship. I think it's just getting through those tough moments, and it's going to start with beating Towson on Saturday.
Mike, any comments, or do you want to move on to this next one?
I would just say last year I was more confident in Towson as a playoff team than I am this year, even though I think that everyone else thought Towson would be better this year, and they have been hot as of recently, so they can give Princeton a fight, but I think Princeton's going to take it.
Agreed. Yep. Towson going to Syracuse last year. Syracuse first time being a real contender in a while. You just thought maybe a hot Towson team could take them. Little different this year, especially without Delaware in the picture in that conference. A little easier journey for Towson. Next game, Colgate at Penn State. 5 p.m. Saturday, ESPNU. Penn State is a 4-goal favorite in this one. These two teams have played each other in the regular season the last 2 years. Last year, Colgate won at Penn State. It was a huge upset at the time. This year, Penn State took care of business, but Colgate goes back to where is Penn State? What do you call Penn State? College Station? No, that's Maryland.
Happy Valley.
State College?
Happy Valley.
State College, Happy Valley. That one's going to be a good game. We're going to get to see the sun set in the fourth quarter. Can't wait for that. But in terms of Mike, two of us did our homework here in picking winners. It was Mike and I, and we both put Colgate as our winners. Did. Mike, explain.
You actually mentioned earlier, I would say outside of Richmond, Colgate would be my dark horse for a money line bet first opening round upset. You mentioned it. Colgate beat Penn State last year. They open up this year. Penn State beats them. Colgate knows how to beat Penn State. They have. And it's, again, hard to beat a team twice. We say it all the time, but it just is in lacrosse. And Colgate's playing their best ball right now. They look very good. They looked very good at the end of the Patriot League tournament. In their 3 wins in the tournament, they didn't win by less than 3 goals, and that's including an Army team that we've been talking about all day that could make it to a national championship. They're playing very well, and they've had some good wins this year. They've proven that they can beat good teams. I also do think Colgate's 10-man ride gets a little bit of mention. They like to press out on defense. They have a really good 10-man ride, and if they're playing good ball in the way that they want to play, they can beat a very, very hard team to beat. That being said, Penn State has been solid all year. It's not going to be an easy task at home.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like Colgate plays fast. They play a 10-man ride. They get up and down. They're good at it. Sometimes it's bitten them in the ass, like losing a Bucknell and losing a Lehigh, right? They couldn't run against them. I think if they can make this an up and down game against Penn State, they have a real good chance. I love Liam Connor and Rory Connor, two brothers for Colgate. They're top 2 leading scorers. Those kids are both studs. Dan and I were watching the BU Colgate Patriot League final this weekend. Hunter Druin, number 5 for them, a junior midi, is another stud. Just kind of an electric playmaker. Makes the right decision. He's poised. He's a real ball carrier, and he's kind of a spark for that offense. So yeah, like Colgate could absolutely win this game. I think Penn State's a better team on paper. And if Penn State can execute their game plan of slowing the ball down and making this a 6-on-6 game, I think they have a good shot. But you never know. Like Colgate's a fast-paced team. They can move the ball. They can score in waves, right? They can get those big chunk plays, scoring off the face-off or scoring off a broken clear, right? They're a team that could cause some problems for Penn State. So, I would say this is like a must-watch game, as Larkin Kemp calls it, an appointment viewing.
The winner gets the winner of the Ohio State Notre Dame game. No fun. I wouldn't want to play who comes out of that one. That's a good game. Damn it. The other thing, Army is rooting for Colgate big time. So that's got to keep that in mind. Last game on Saturday, Georgetown, who we have not really talked about. Georgetown at Duke. Duke is the 7th seed. They're a 2-goal favorite at home in this one. This game's at 7:30 p.m. on ESPNU. Let's talk about Georgetown for a minute, because I think that when I think of Georgetown this year, I think of one game. I think of their 2-goal loss to Richmond, or maybe a 1-goal loss to Richmond in the middle of the year. And I think that just kind of told me where they were in terms of the mid-major sort of landscape. Big East, I guess you can call them a mid-major. Some say they aren't. But, like, can they beat Duke? Can they beat Cornell? Can they beat any of these teams who are in these major conferences? I don't know. And they haven't yet this year.
Yeah, Dan, I would agree with you. That Richmond loss and also that loss to Denver, that 7-3 loss, kind of showed that Georgetown maybe isn't at that level of some of these top contenders. They rely a lot on Aiden Carroll, who's a hell of a player. But when I watch their offense, I do think they're a little one-dimensional. They kind of play an old school style of offense where it's, dodge hard, try to beat your matchup, and then move it. It's not as dynamic as some of these other offenses that you see. And I think just personnel-wise, they are young. They have their guys. But when you're playing a team like Duke, who has 6 guys who can match up against everybody, especially with the rope unit they have, I think it's going to be a tough game for Georgetown to win. And, yes, they came out of the Big East. I think the Big East was down this year. But I have a hard time seeing them beating Duke. And that's partially because I think Duke is a Final Four caliber team. I think they're playing hot right now. I think they got hot at the right time. They're a team that is built for May, top to bottom, right? They're long in the middle of the field. They have studs on both sides of the ball. I like Duke going pretty far in this, and I think they're gonna handle Georgetown relatively easily.
I don't know about handle them easily, but I'm with you guys. I think Duke's going to win this game. But Georgetown, you can't. Georgetown's playing good ball right now. They've changed some things on offense. They have one of the best cover guys in the country in Ty Banks. Aiden Carroll, who just got drafted to the PLL, is a fucking stud. If they play the way that Georgetown can play, who knows what could happen in this game. I think a lot of people are going to lean on the Duke side, but it's Georgetown we're talking about. So,
yeah,
we'll see.
It's a good point.
And Duke can just be one guy for Duke, Delgado. I brought him up before we hit record, but didn't play much the entire year. And then he came on, got some play time in the last game of the regular season and then the ACC tournament. And he might be Duke's best offensive player.
Thomas Delgado.
He, like, his explosiveness, his step.
You have to slide to him, come out of the box.
You have to. They started pulling him.
You have to. Even with the pole, he's gonna beat you with speed if you don't get out there.
Yeah, he does kind of have that Matt Jeffrey effect where it's like he's not a guy that typically gets a pole, but like he's gonna run by your shorty, so you gotta respect him.
Right. Stop him, and then and when he's not getting assists or scoring goals, he uses the hockey assist, and he's making the right play every single time he's in the field. Duke just looked good at the ACC tournament. Their uniforms, they had the black on black blue shorts, then wore the whites in the championship against Syracuse.
And there's no film on this guy. Like, there's nothing more valuable
Yeah.
than having somebody come out late in the party and like they just don't have film on him. Like, they don't know what to expect. And he's a core piece of your midfield. Like,
those are the teams that win
McAdory.
it.
Yeah, they got a big steal
the
with him.
teams. They have a guy you have a guy or two who's kind of under the radar during the year, and they step up big time because guys get injured. You know, people start getting tired. You got grad guys who played for 5 years, they're a little beaten up. You need those young guys or those faceless, nameless guys to step up in the biggest stages. So
maybe it's intentional. Maybe they knew he was going to explode, and they were just holding it like a.
They knew they were getting that large.
Yeah. Like an ace in their pocket. Yeah, they're Dukes. Look at that large. Sunday, May 11th, Notre Dame at Ohio State. Let's talk about this one a lot, and the next two not so much. This one's at noon on ESPN2. I underlined that and bolded it. Not ESPNU, ESPN2 on Sunday. Notre Dame is a 1.5 goal favorite at the 4 seed Ohio State, who just dominated the Big Ten. I mean, let's not talk about the seeding. Let's not talk about how we got here. Let's just talk about the game and what we think is going to happen. Start with you, Mike.
I will just say, and I won't say seeding, I'll just talk about how this is a rematch because it is the game. For people who didn't see this game earlier, it was a 1-goal game. Ohio State won it in the final 10 seconds. It was an absolute slugfest. I think it was like 11-10, 10-9, one of those scores. And we're talking about Ohio State team who just won the Big Ten, one of the toughest conferences, one that we thought was the toughest conference this year, and they played Notre Dame again. And I mentioned earlier, you're playing a two-peat national champion in Notre Dame again twice in 1 year, and you got to beat them again. It's gonna be a very tight game. It's gonna go down to the wire. I think it's gonna be a very, very good thing for the sport of college lacrosse. You mentioned it's on ESPN too. I think this game is going to be so physical. It's going to have the greatest aspects of lockdown defense and also perfect offense because you're going against one of the best defenses and you have to be absolutely perfect. I think there's also going to be an amazing matchup. I think Chris Kavanaugh kind of got slighted a little bit in the draft tonight with the PLL. He's going to be covered by Bobby Van Buren again. I feel like the Kavanaughs always have a chip on their shoulder. I think he's going to play with some tenacity and try and take it to Van Buren. So that'll be a fun one to watch as well.
Yeah, I think this is going to show us a lot about how experience matters. Notre Dame's top 8 scorers have all won 2 national championships, right? And then you have Jordan Faison, who's also in that category. He's only won 1. Ohio State's been a better team all year, and I think on paper right now, they're better than Notre Dame, which is hard to say, but the way that they've played and the guys who have stepped up for them, I think they're a better team than Notre Dame right now. But Notre Dame has the experience playing in this moment, right? They have expectations as a program. I think Ohio State wins this game if they don't kind of get shell-shocked and, start feeling bad for themselves that they have to play Notre Dame, right? Like, to be a national championship team, you have to beat the best in the country, right? Whether it's in round 1 or it's, in a couple weeks. Right. So if Ohio State is as good as they've been all year, and if everything is true about them, they should win this game. Right. The only thing that could play a big factor in this is that Notre Dame's been here before. And they're just used to this moment. Right. They've played in these games. They've played in bigger games than this. Right? For Ohio State, every single kid on the roster, this is the biggest game of their career. No question about it.
Next game is not going to be talked about right now, but it's Robert Morris or Air Force at Maryland, the 2 seed at 2:30 on ESPN2. Be fun to watch this game just to see, what the NEC or what the ASUN's packing. Just see what they got in store. Save commentary here. I think Maryland's going to take it away. In the next round, Maryland is likely going to face up against Duke or Georgetown, depending on the winner of that game. But I think they're thrilled in seeing how the bracket turned out, if I had to say the very least. They lucked out.
Yeah,
they lucked out.
They did.
It is.
And John Tillman's gonna shut his mouth and not say a word, as I would too, like a thief in the night. Next game, 5 p.m. Harvard at Syracuse, who is the 6th seed. This one's at 5. It's on ESPNU. Rematch in the Dome. Crazy that these teams played in the Dome this year. Syracuse and Harvard never play each other in the regular season. And the year they do, they happen to play each other again in the JMA Dome on Sunday in the first round of the NCAA. I don't know why I have so much faith in Syracuse, even after Harvard beat them the first time around. Do you guys feel the same way?
I mean, I don't think Harvard's beating Cuse twice.
No.
Now, Cuse for the rest of the playoff, yeah, I'm with you, but I can't see it.
Mike, can you see a line for this game? Harvard, so we can't look.
Let me take a peek.
Hayden, while he pulls it up, what the hell do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I think early on in the season when Harvard beat Syracuse, it was a little bit of a, I don't know, like kind of a weird situation, right? Harvard was coming off a loss against Colgate. Syracuse had played Maryland the week before. They lost to them, right? I think that was kind of when Syracuse was in a little slump, and Harvard kind of had everything to prove and nothing to lose. So I think, when Harvard beat Syracuse, right, they kind of, I think they just came out real hot, and Syracuse is kind of in that slump, still figuring out who they were. And Harvard took that game, right? And it's not to say that like Harvard shouldn't have took it, right? They're a great team, and they deserve that win. But I think when you're looking at this game, right, the tables have kind of turned a little bit, right? Syracuse just won an ACC championship, right? They're a team that is full of guys dying to win a national championship, right? Like I look at their attack, like Owen Hiltz. He wants a national championship more than anybody. Joey Spallina, for his legacy, wants a national championship more than anybody. I think of like Billy Dwan. I think of Michael Grace, the RIT transfer, who has 2 national championships at the D3 level, right? He knows what it's like to win a national championship, right? And I think Syracuse is just like yearning for this more so than any other team in the entire bracket. And I think they're going to reach a different level. I think all year we've been saying Syracuse is back and, they're a team of destiny. And like with their bracket placement, I really think they are. Like, I think they see the path, right? When we talked to Gary Gate, a couple weeks ago, he was like, the path is there, right? We just have to execute. And he's absolutely right. Like they've earned the 6th seed. I'm sure they wish it was a little bit higher, but like they're ready to go. I think Syracuse is going to roll into this tournament really hot. With a great mindset, with a bunch of guys who are just like dying for a national championship.
I mean, their seeding worked in their benefit in this case.
Definitely.
Like, I don't think it's a detriment to them or they care. I think after the ACC tournament, they were like elated. Like the whole program, Gary couldn't wait to get his hands on the trophy. I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but they were like overhyped about winning that tournament. And I feel like if they want to go far, that has to be an expectation that they're going to win big games.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I also want to say, like, Harvard's been fantastic this year. I really wish they beat Princeton in that Ivy League semifinal. I think that's the caliber of win that you need to kind of have some solidity in this NCAA tournament. Like, you need, a win like that on your resume. And, like, besides Syracuse, they don't really have that win. So I think they'd kind of have to pull a rabbit out of the hat to beat Syracuse. But it's going to be a good game. I like Syracuse in this one, though.
This win got them in the tournament. And you made a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Harvard lost to Colgate. So did Army. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Michael, what's the spread first?
It's Syracuse's -3.
-3.
Yeah.
I mean, for a first round 6 seed versus a,
at large.
Well, it does 6 plays. 6 plays to 11 usually. Basketball. So,
I mean, they're an at large. If you're an at large, you're a good team.
yeah.
This is Harvard's shot.
It is Harvard's shot.
You got to make it happen.
How's
Best of
Harvard's
luck,
defense?
Harvard.
The defense is pretty good. The only question mark, he's not even a question mark, is Graham Stevens in net, who's a true freshman. And, he was a 5-star recruit, best goalie in the class, absolute stud. But, having a freshman in net, no matter who you are, no matter even if you're Graham Stevens, is tough, right? Like, it's just a level of experience that you haven't had. It's the first time in a game like this. I mean, obviously he's played some big moments this year, but coming back to the Dome against a blood-hungry Syracuse team is tough, especially in the Dome. For goalies, it's tough in the Dome. Like it's tough to see the ball. I mean, he's done it before
In May.
The
Dome in May. I don't
Nice
know
and warm in there.
I don't know what they do with the renovations. If they didn't do AC, it's going to be tough. It's going to be muggy.
And if it ends up being a problem, Gary's going to solve it. So
He
guys got a checkbook like nobody else.
Last game, Siena or Albany at Cornell. Next. Mike, go ahead. Mike, if no.
Only thing I'll mention is I think the over in this game, regardless who wins, Siena or Albany in the playing game, might be the move, especially if Siena makes it. Cornell has the number 1 scoring office in the country, and Siena has the number 5.
Wow.
I have a
Albany's-
hot take that this game is going to be a 6-goal game. 18-12, Cornell over Albany or Siena.
Sounds like an over to me.
Yep.
It's not gonna be over 20. It's not gonna be over 25.
Right.
The over line.
Albany did play Notre Dame tight in the first round last year. Not tight, but tighter than they covered. They
got guys.
They do. They have a couple of good players.
They got a good player.
Yeah, I think they got a good player.
They got a good player.
Silas Richmond to name one. That's it for the slate. Step downs. We're making progress. Last week I said we were 1-7. Oh no, we're 0-7-1 across our last 8 picks. Last week we went 2-2. Brett, yours did not hit. You took Notre Dame's spread against Cuse. This was the first round in the ACC tournament. That did not hit. I took Drexel plus 2.5 against Fairfield. They dominated Fairfield. Good job, Dan. Hayden, you took Providence plus 1.5 at Villanova. That did not hit. Mike, you took Binghamton plus 4 versus Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, can you say the bet that you hit?
Bingo plus 4.
No.
Right.
No. Say the name of the school.
Binghamton.
We got a text from a listener saying,
You got it.
Mike, ... Binghamton.
That's a hard word to say, man.
It is. It's a tongue twister. It's a lot of syllables.
Binghamton.
But this week, we're looking to make improvements. This is going to be a tough week to bet. And honestly, I'd really like to hear from our listeners what they're doing. But Brett, what do you got?
I got Syracuse -3 versus Harvard. I think for all the reasons we said before, I think they're going to take it away.
Yep. I have the under in the Richmond UNC game. I said it earlier in the show. It's at 23 right now. Could change, but 2 great defenses. UNC's a no-name defense. It's one of the best defenses in the country, and Richmond's great at it as well. Team defense is phenomenal.
I like Duke -2 versus Georgetown. I think Duke is on a mission. I think they're better than this Georgetown team. I see them winning by a couple goals against Georgetown.
Michael.
I love Richmond plus 1.5 at UNC, and I think I made my case earlier.
You sure did. Well, that does it. A lot to think about going into these games. Enjoy them. Enjoy the games. These are on ESPNU and ESPN2.
Linear television.
And it's only going to get more linear. It's all linear now. And, go to a bar and watch them because they're going to be on linear television. You can ask the bartender to flip to ESPNU, ESPN2, whatever it is.
Just like Miles Jones with all those 8-year-olds today.
At the Atlas draft party.
Don't do that.
For those who didn't see it, it seemed like the Atlas draft party was, I think it was Trevor Baptiste, Miles Jones, and maybe a couple other players with probably 30 kids. I don't know where they were, but it wasn't Chuck E. Cheese. It looked like they were at a bar or something.
Local watering hole.
Don't fake it. Why are they faking it? And making it seem, I don't know. How about a legit draft party? How about the Denver Outlaws draft party where they're chugging boots?
Drinking shoeys.
Or the Carolina Chaos, the Reaper just taking fucking picklebacks with his Nacho Libre mask on.
Through his mask?
I think the Reaper's a niche. I think the Carolina Reaper is a niche.
Makes sense.
He lives in Carolina, loves lax, and he's hiding under the mask. All right. Sorry we didn't talk about the draft. We just don't care that much. Enjoy the games this weekend.